The year is 1912. An empire that has endured for over 2 millennia, surviving invasions, famines, civil wars, and countless rebellions, suddenly ceases to exist. The last emperor of China is just 6 years old. He sits on a throne he doesn't understand, in a forbidden city that's about to become forbidden to him. Within weeks, thousands of years of imperial tradition will vanish almost overnight. But how does an empire that powerful, that ancient, that seemingly eternal, just collapse? The answer is more shocking than you might think, and it all starts with a flower that Europeans couldn't stop smoking. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into one of history's most traumatic transformations. We're talking about the fall of Imperial China, a story filled with opium, rebellion, foreign gunboats, and a grandmother who basically ran the entire country from behind a screen. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because we're about to unpack over a century of chaos that brought down the longest continuous civilization in human history. And trust me, this story has more plot twists than your favorite Netflix series. Let's set the stage. For 2,000 years, China operated under what they called the Mandate of Heaven. Basically, the emperor ruled because the gods said so. Dynasties rose and fell, but the system itself remained remarkably stable. The Qing Dynasty, which would be the last, came to power in 1644. They were actually Manchu people from the north, not ethnic Han Chinese, which is important because this ethnic tension would simmer beneath the surface for centuries. By the early 1800s, the Qing Empire looked impressive on paper. It controlled vast territories, had a population of over 300 million people, and possessed a rich cultural heritage that had influenced all of East Asia. The emperor in Beijing sat at the center of what Chinese people genuinely believed was the Middle Kingdom, the center of civilization itself. But underneath this impressive facade, the empire was rotting from within. The first major blow came from an unexpected source: British tea addiction. Yes, seriously, the British loved Chinese tea so much that they were bleeding silver to pay for it. China didn't want anything Britain produced, so the trade was entirely one-sided. The British solution: get Chinese people addicted to opium grown in British India. When the Chinese government tried to stop this drug trafficking, Britain literally went to war to protect their right to sell drugs. The First Opium War from 1839 to 1842 was a humiliating defeat for China. Modern British warships demolished Chinese defenses, and the Treaty of Nanking forced China to pay massive reparations, open treaty ports to foreign trade, and hand over Hong Kong. This wasn't just a military defeat. It shattered the entire worldview that had sustained Chinese imperial ideology. How could the emperor hold the mandate of heaven if he couldn't protect his people from foreign barbarians? This question would haunt the Qing dynasty for the rest of its existence. But the real catastrophe was just beginning. Between 1850 and 1864, China experienced the Taiping Rebellion, quite possibly the deadliest civil war in human history. A failed civil service exam candidate named Hong Exuquan had a nervous breakdown and became convinced he was the younger brother of Jesus Christ. He gathered followers and launched a rebellion that would leave between 20 and 30 million people dead. Think about that number. More people died in this one rebellion than in World War I. The Taiping rebels conquered huge portions of southern China and established their capital in Nanjing. Qing Dynasty nearly fell right then and there, and only survived with help from foreign powers who decided they preferred a weak king government to the chaos of the Taiping. The empire emerged from the Taiping Rebellion completely exhausted. The government was bankrupt. Entire provinces were devastated. And the foreign powers had gotten a taste of just how vulnerable China really was. Over the next few decades, the humiliations continued. The Second Opium War brought more unequal treaties. France took Vietnam. Britain took Burma. Japan, a country China had traditionally viewed as a cultural student, defeated China in the First Sino-Japanese War of 1895 and took Taiwan. Foreign powers carved out spheres of influence in Chinese territory, essentially treating the country like a buffet where everyone could grab whatever they wanted. Inside China, people were desperate for answers. How could they save their civilization? Two camps emerged. The conservatives wanted to preserve traditional Confucian values while adopting just enough Western technology to defend themselves. The reformers argued that China needed fundamental institutional changes, maybe even a constitutional monarchy like Japan had adopted. In 1898, a young emperor named Guangxu tried to implement radical reforms in what's called the 100 Days Reform. But his own aunt, the Empress Dowager Cixi, staged a coup and put him under house arrest. Cixi was one of the most powerful women in Chinese history, ruling from behind the scenes for nearly 50 years. She was politically brilliant, but ultimately conservative, more interested in preserving Manchu power than saving China. Then came the Boxer Rebellion in 19, and this is where things get really bizarre. A group called the Boxers United in Righteousness believed they had magical powers that made them immune to bullets. They wanted to expel all foreigners and Christians from China. Empress Dowager Cixi made the catastrophic decision to support them and declare war on 8 foreign powers simultaneously. It went exactly as you'd expect. An 8-nation alliance invaded, captured Beijing, and forced China to pay massive indemnities. The Empress had to flee the capital in disguise. The empire's weakness was now undeniable to everyone, both inside and outside China. After the Boxer disaster, even conservatives realized reforms were necessary. The Qing government finally began implementing changes, abolishing the ancient civil service examination system, creating new schools, and even promising a constitutional government. But it was too little, too late. Revolutionary movements were gaining strength, especially among Chinese students studying abroad who were exposed to Republican and nationalist ideas. The leader who would ultimately bring down the empire was Sun Yat-sen, often called the father of modern China. He organized multiple failed uprisings, but each failure spread revolutionary ideas further. Sun argued for 3 principles: nationalism, democracy, and people's livelihood. He envisioned a modern republic that would restore China's dignity and strength. The final collapse came almost accidentally. In October 1911, a bomb exploded prematurely in the revolutionary base in Wuhan, forcing the revolutionaries to launch their uprising earlier than planned. Shockingly, it succeeded. Province after province declared independence from Qing rule. The imperial government, riddled with corruption and lacking legitimacy, simply couldn't hold together. Within months, most of China had rejected Qing authority. The court was in chaos. Empress Dowager Cixi had died in 1908, and the new emperor was Puai. His father, the Prince Regent, had no idea what to do. In desperation, they turned to Yuan Shikai, the most powerful military commander in China, and begged him to save the dynasty. Yuan had been purged from power years earlier by the same court now begging for his help. He saw his opportunity. Yuan negotiated with both sides and eventually forced the emperor to abdicate in February 1912 in exchange for favorable treatment and the promise that Yuan would become president of the new republic. And just like that, it was over. A 6-year-old boy signed away thousands of years of imperial tradition. Huai would live an extraordinary life, later becoming a puppet emperor under Japanese occupation and eventually dying as a common citizen under communist rule. But in 1912, he was just a confused child watching his world disappear. So why did it all collapse so quickly? The simple answer is that the empire had been dying for a century, held together only by inertia and the lack of a viable alternative. The underlying causes were complex and interconnected. Foreign imperialism exposed China's military and technological backwardness. The opium trade and unequal treaties drained resources and shattered the ideological foundations of imperial rule. Massive internal rebellions devastated the country and bankrupted the government. The Qing dynasty's status as ethnic outsiders made them vulnerable when Han Chinese nationalism began to rise. Conservative resistance to meaningful reform meant that by the time changes came, revolutionary sentiment had already grown too strong. But perhaps most fundamentally, the entire conceptual framework of imperial rule had become obsolete. The mandate of heaven couldn't explain why foreign powers could dominate China. Confucian values couldn't provide solutions to modern challenges. The tributary system couldn't function in a world of nation-states and international law. The empire didn't just lose military battles. It lost the battle of ideas. The fall of Imperial China sent shockwaves throughout Asia and the world. It inspired other independence movements and showed that even the most ancient systems weren't permanent. But the story didn't end with a happy democratic republic. China would endure decades more chaos, warlord rule, Japanese invasion, and eventually a civil war that would bring the communists to power in 1949. The search for a modern Chinese identity that began with the empire's fall continues in different forms even today. Thanks so much for watching. The collapse of Imperial China is one of those massive historical turning points that reshaped our entire world, and yet so many people in the West know almost nothing about it. If you found this video interesting, definitely smash that like button and let me know in the comments what other historical topics you'd like me to cover. Should I do a follow-up on the warlord era or the Chinese Civil War? Let me know what you think. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? We've got tons more history content coming your way. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.